Alright y'all, we got a banger of a video today, and no, I'm not talking about the Bladesong climax. Actually, I am. Today, we're going to talk about bladesinging and its multi-class potential in Baldur's Gate 3, and we're going to be looking at it in Patch 8, the Stress Test server. Now, everything you see here is technically still in beta form, but we're going to try to see, when it comes to Wizard and the subclass bladesinging, what does it synergize with as far as multiclassing, where the bladesinging is the predominant class choice, so at least 6 levels into bladesinging. But that's enough foreplay, let's go ahead and get started with the video. Now when it comes to Wizard and bladesinging, we want to ensure that our intelligence is probably going to be pretty high, as well as our constitution, because we have a fair amount of concentration spells that I think really make the bladesinging subclass shine. And then along with bladesinging, we also get to pick a weapon to basically be proficient in, so having like eye dexterity is actually very valuable. And there are going to be actually a few ways to get around that, and you'll see what I'm talking about when we get to the gameplay section probably. But moving into bladesinging, the weapons we get to choose here: daggers, sickles, short swords, rapiers, scimitars, and long swords. Now, everybody got a little upset with me when I picked the long sword in my initial guide for bladesinging, but yeah, strength longsword can totally work. There are a few longswords also that are finesse based, so they will be based off your dexterity. So longsword's a good choice here, in my opinion, because you can take something like Great Weapon Master and just get 10 damage added to your strikes. So I think that's really good. And I also had a lot of people, when it came to bladesinging, they said it's based off your intelligence for your weapon strikes. That's not true in Baldur's Gate 3. Know that the tabletop and BG3 are like two different sandboxes. Larian has almost like their own like home-brewed 5e rule set that they use. So just know when it comes to weapons here, yeah, dexterity and strength is what they're going to be based off of. Unless you do some trickery, which we'll get into. But really quick, let's just go through bladesinger really quick here. We're going to go at least into level 6 here, and that is just for the extra attack. Song of Defense, kind of a steep investment. Can be worthwhile when you pair it with, I'm thinking of like one class in particular, but for a majority of the classes, we're going to be sticking around level 6 here. 9, kind of an investment as well, but that can work too. And as far as like spell selections and feats, we will talk about that in the gameplay section, because I think there's a lot of choices, especially if you know what you're going to be multiclassing into. I do think this is a subclass where it would really benefit you to almost like write down what you're going to do with it, because there are a lot of mistakes you can make along the way that you'll then have to like respec to fix, and that can be very annoying. So this is definitely one of the ones where you're like, okay, I want to do this, this, and this, and this in this order, and not mess things up, and make sure you make the right choices. But let's get to the synergy tier list, and we're going to start off with Barbarian. So when it comes to Barbarian, not a lot of synergy actually, because of raging. When you rage, you cannot use spells and you can't focus on concentrations. I don't think we need to go into any of the subclasses for Barbarian. This one's pretty cut and dry. And so for me, Barbarian wise, yeah, it's just going into the nope category. I don't think there's a lot of use cases for Barbarian subclassing with bladesinging in particular. And next up we have Bard, and Bard can be an interesting one because it does get spell slots. You also get Song of Rest, which is, I love Song of Rest, but their spells are based off of charisma. So that kind of throws a monkey wrench into what we're trying to do. So I don't think there's actually a lot of synergy between these two classes when it comes to bladesinging. Now I'm not going to say it's completely worthless to pick up Bard or put it like in the nope category, because you can always just pick utility spells that have nothing to do with your spell modifier ability. But other than that, I think that just sticking with bladesinging would be just far better than trying to multiclass with Bard. So I'm just doing a quick run through here. Maybe College of Swords or Valor. But the thing is, we're going to be getting our own extra attack, and we have Booming Blade. So I don't think as far as like martial damage, we're that concerned with. And then going deeper into Bard, yeah, there's just nothing here that's like a standout that Wizards already can't do. So let's go ahead and head back to the list. So when it comes to Bard, I kind of just going to put them in the meh category. Actually, I'll put them in can work, and you'll see why a little bit later on. I don't want to show my hand too quick, but gameplay section is going to be a little spicy. So let's go ahead and move on to Cleric. And Cleric and Druid we can kind of talk about together, because they both go off of wisdom, but they get something in particular that I like a lot when it comes to multiclassing with bladesinging, and that is just one level dip into either one of these can pick up something like Cure Wounds and Healing Word. And in the case of Cleric here, they also get Sanctuary, which I'm going to be doing some pretty, not crazy, but I feel like there's a fun, different playstyle with Bladesinging with Sanctuary involved. And of course, Command. Command is also a really good level 1 spell. And the only thing about taking something like the Cure Wounds or the Command is you're going to have to worry about your Wisdom modifier. But that's not too big of a deal because having high wisdom is actually pretty good in general. But yeah, back to the list. I think Cleric can work. You also get the divinity charges as well. And I'm just going to throw Druid up there as well because of they can pick the same type of curing spells. And I'm going to show you what I mean between these two in the gameplay section. I'm going through these a little bit quicker because I want to get to that section. But I do give the leg up to Cleric because of Sanctuary. And again, I'm putting these in the can work category. And next up we have Fighter. We're going to skip over Druid and we kind of talk about Fighter and Monk in the same breath too. That's what we'll do. We'll just go 2 at a time again to move this along a little bit quicker. And for Fighter here, I think it synergizes just because putting in 2 levels, you get Action Surge. All spellcasters benefit from Action Surge in a big way. So really strong synergy there. You also get to go very deep into Bladesinging and still get this benefit as well. So I do think it's a nice addition. Now trying to split Fighter any higher than level 2, you start to get a little bit into, I would say, murky waters where doesn't really make a lot of sense because you think like something like Eldritch Knight, they both, intelligence spells, but Bladesinging's already doing all that much better than doing like a split. So I don't think working into Eldritch Knight is really worth it. And then Champion, no. Arcane Archer, no. I think you just want the Action Surge when it comes to Fighter. So it's definitely going to be on like the very low end of the synergizes because it's very simple, very boring, essentially, but it is effective. And when it comes to Monk, just like no, somewhere in these categories, we want things that will synergize with our intelligence modifier or have like utility spells or just give us more spell slots. And Monk's not doing any of those. I'll keep it in the meh category because it's not as like, it doesn't butt heads as much as like something like Barbarian, where it's like Barbarian, your whole thing's about raging. You're not gonna be using any spells. You're not gonna be concentrating on anything. And that's really important for Bladesinging. Monk doesn't get in the way that much, but the multi-classing for Monk is just not clicking for me when it comes to Bladesinging. All right, and now we have Paladin. We can kind of actually talk about Paladin a little bit because of Divine Smite, and you get that at level 2. So that is a nice addition to add on top of Booming Blade. So if you really want to focus on being this martial blade singer, if you wanted to take then Divine Smite, just 2 levels into Paladin for Divine Smite to make your Booming Blades that much more powerful, I couldn't fault you for it. You also get the things I was talking about with Cleric and Druid, with something like Cure Wounds, Command. These are all really good spells just to have around. And I'll show you why, because when it comes to Bladesinging, you do want to be almost like spamming spells if you want to get the most out of your climax. So when it comes to Paladin, I am going to put it in the can work. I would actually probably dip it. It really depends on what type of Bladesinging you're going to do, because you can just focus still on the spell side when it comes to Bladesinging. You don't really have to go too deep into being a martial character if you don't want to. But if you do want to go to that martial side, then I think something like Paladin and also in Bard too could work really well. But if you want to make a case for it actually synergizing, I couldn't fault you too much. Next up we have Ranger. Kind of falls into the same category as Paladin, where all these subclasses, maybe not you Beastmaster, but all these other subclasses will help your martial prowess essentially, where they will just add on little ticks of damage to your melee strikes. You also then get to pick up another fighting style that could be helpful. But yeah, they're all just good choices. As far as like complete synergy though, I mean, you do get some more spell slots for some utility spells, something like Enhanced Leap or Long Strider. So I can't fault it for that. Also, Hunter's Mark, sure, you want like an early game concentration, but as Bladesinging, we're going to get so many better concentration spells than Hunter's Mark. So this is also a can work kind of situation if you're going to focus on the martial side of Bladesinging. Now, I think Divine Smite is a little bit better of a synergy just because you just hit him with Booming Blade, you apply then Divine Smite, you can upscale that damage with the crazy amount of high level spells you get with Wizard. I mean, not too high, I think it stopped scaling at what, 4? So not too high, but anyways, you'll have plenty of spell slots to use Divine Smite with. When it comes to then Ranger, it's like, you get to add little ticks of damage. Sure, you're not using any like spell slots, but the damage that you're getting is like a 1d6 or something like that. So not as useful as I would say a Paladin. So I'm going to stick it on the low end of can work. And next up we have Rogue. Actually, we could talk about Rogue, Sorcerer, and Warlock. I don't think we need to click on these. I think they're pretty obvious what they basically bring to the table. So just going back to the list here, Rogue is going to go up here and it's going to go a little bit above Fighter, and that's because of Thief, getting that extra bonus action. To use your Bladesong climax, it costs a bonus action. So having that ability to basically use a bonus action utility spell, like say like Misty Step, and then climax at the same time, you're going to get another damage charge, and then obviously then you get to use your climax. So that's a really strong synergy. I like Rogue a lot for Bladesinging. And now when it comes to Sorcerer and Warlock, these are both different spellcasters that are based off of charisma, but sorcerers have meta magic. Meta magic is really, really good. I would almost, do I want to put it above Rogue? I don't know. I think I have to, because meta magic in quickening is just so strong. You could just take a bunch of spells that don't, again, go off of your charisma and just still focus on intelligence and just enjoy all those meta magic points. So that's a really strong synergy always. And in the case of Warlock here, I think you're going to see that I like this a lot, actually. I'm going to put this probably you could swap these two. But when it comes to Warlock, so your spells are going to be based off of charisma, right? But if you take something like Hexblade really early on, then your weapon is also based off of charisma. And now you're going to have to overcome not taking so much into dexterity, but you don't need to take a lot of dexterity so that your martial weapons are actually useful. You can focus then just on charisma. And you could also dump intelligence as well if you really wanted to. And I know that statement right there just had the wizard community just... But listen, just bear with me. There is a style of play here that is very effective that you actually don't need any intelligence. And that's what I've been kind of alluding to when I'm talking about Cleric and Druid as well. So you'll see what I'm talking about. Just hang on. But the last thing about Warlock really quick is the fact that their spells come back on short rest. So you're always going to have basically resources to spend between short rest. And I am a player who really values short rest. I like to use all my short rest charges before I long rest. I just feel like that's my flow of the game. So yeah, technically in Baldur's Gate 3, you could long rest after every encounter and be completely fine. There's enough food in the game, and also you can just set that scaling camp modifier all the way down so you barely use any food. So that is a playstyle I recognize, but it's kind of tedious. I would say it's not my vibe. But that's the list so far. So when it comes to my top pick here, this is a tough one actually. I didn't really think about it. I think I'm gonna give it to am I gonna give it to Warlock? I don't know. I actually don't think I'm gonna pick a top pick. I think these three are kind of tied, and I really like what I got going on with Cleric. And so let's not beat around the bush. Let's go to the gameplay section. All right, and in the gameplay section here, let's take a look at our wizard real quick. We're just level 6 right now. We're gonna be showing off something, but these are the spells I would be kind of leaning towards when I was leveling wizard. So level 1 spells there, I think Burning Hands, this is always going to hit. Now if they succeed their throw, they're only going to take half damage, but at least we're going to be doing damage. And then something like these utility spells here, Long Strider, Enhanced Sleep. Shield actually doesn't synergize with Bladesong charges at the moment. I don't know if that's going to be fixed. Magic Missile, obviously a really good choice. The weapons that I'm always going to be using in this gameplay section right now is Shadowblade. I think this is actually really good. Misty Step for a little bit of utility. Not so much magic weapon. I don't think that's as important. Haste, very important actually. And then something like Counterspell's nice. Cantrip wise, the only one I really care about is Booming Blade. And you'll always be able to tell like what spells I'm like prioritizing in my spell bar down here. So that's really like the picks I would be making. And they're for some pretty good reasons. But let's go ahead and start this encounter. I want to show off something to you guys. Let's go ahead and just do our Bladesong. And we'll get into combat real quick. Okay, and now let's summon our blade. Just gonna upscale it to 3. We're good to go there, and we could hit him with the Booming Blade, no big deal. And we kill them. That's fine. What I want to show off is actually next turn. Now you can see our dexterity is actually at 18, pretty high. We have decent intelligence and then a little bit of wisdom. But let's skip our turn. Now I just want to show off a climax real quick. So quickly, just climax. And then we'll head into the log here. Now, when you look into the log, when we did Bladesong Climax, they rolled a DC check against our intelligence using their intelligence. And since they succeeded the intelligence check, we only did half damage. So just take note of that. I want you guys just to focus on the fact that the climax right there has a +3 from our intelligence. So let's now reload, and I want to show you something. So now we reloaded our save. Now let's just go ahead and take one level into, I don't have any clothes on, so don't get too excited. Now let's just take one level into Cleric. Any of these work. I'm actually going to go with Life Domain instead. And let's just pick up just a Healing Word there and Sanctuary. Okay, and then we will just exit here. We're just taking one level. We're going to do the same thing. Let's go ahead and cast Bladesong on ourselves. We're going to pick up our Shadow Blade. And then let's hit this target real quick. Sure, we'll critical. So goofy. Wizards and Bladesong, the animations are so goofy. I love it. Anyways, so let's just go ahead and we'll just do our Bladesong. So I'll kind of get the point across here. Okay, so you can see they failed their saving throw. Notice right there, based off of our wisdom, is the dice check that they're rolling against, not intelligence. That is because we took one level into Cleric. So the latest class that you pick up is what the spell modifier is when it comes to Bladesong.
Whoop-de-doo! What does it all mean, Basil?
What does it all mean? Well, what it means is you can create this like Frankenstein support character that doesn't need any intelligence whatsoever. You just make sure you're using a bunch of utility spells when it comes to your wizard choices, and you can just be this healing machine in the front line. And the only thing you're gonna have to worry about is dexterity, constitution, maybe not so much constitution, because when you're in Bladesong form, you actually get some constitution, or +3 to your constitution saving throws. So that can be really helpful. That's really good. So maybe constitution not as important, but that's still pretty important. And then just pump the rest into wisdom. Really ensure that these Bladesong climaxes are going to hit, and just have like this kooky play style. And so I want to show you a little bit more of it. Man, I am probably pissing off the wizard community so much right now. Guys, it works, okay? It works. I don't know how else to explain it. Okay, so I have a little bit of a scenario here where I have my Shadowheart. She's my Bladesinger. She can dual wield, by the way. You can dual wield blades. And she's essentially, all she's been doing is going into Sanctuary. She has 4 more charges of Sanctuary. And she's just been going around just healing both of these two fighter martial characters. And she's just been building up Bladesong charges. None of these guards can hit her. And so you have like this frontline support character that, just show you, can just go ahead and we'll heal our Paladin there, and we'll heal Lae'zel right there. And we're just building charges. We just added 2 more. So now we have 13 damaging charges. And I have a little bit of Thief in here as well. But I only think you need to take 1 level in Cleric for this to pull this off. And then we can just go ahead and just Bladesong dance in the middle of them. 53 damage, 48 damage. We healed them up a little bit as well. I honestly didn't actually have that many healing song charges, but yeah, just really nutty. You can see there, again, our wisdom is being added to this, not our intelligence. So you can see this is just a weird playstyle that works, that I really actually like. I'm gonna make a build out of this eventually, but just know, yeah, you don't exactly need intelligence for Bladesinging. But let's head to the normal gameplay section where we will show off basically the other, I would say, multi-class options. Okay, so we have our other classes here. Again, same as always, we're not going to be focusing on anything special. Everybody just has Shadow Blades. Because again, I'm showing them more of the base framework of these builds, and not so much them juiced up on all sorts of items. And this is in Act 3, so you're going to have so much better gear. You're going to have gear, essentially. I don't have any gear right now. But let's take a look at the options. So this is the Frankenstein one that I was just talking about. I call it Frankenstein, but it's like the Cleric variant with a little bit of Rogue. We have the 10 Wizard with 2 Fighter. That's a good one too. The split between Sorcerer, and that's for meta magic points. And then we have the Warlock variant, and I like the Warlock variant a lot. But as far as prep skills, a lot of these you want to do in combat, because that's the way you're going to get your Bladesong charges. So you can prep your Bladesinging, but then you want to build up charges, you have to be in combat. But okay, let's get right into the mix. Look at the party. They look like a bunch of like, I don't know, like knight assassins from like Elden Ring or something like that with all their glowing daggers. I should have called I did a Paladin my Paladin video last time. Should have called that like my King's Guard or something. They all look pretty cool. But anywho, we have our Sorcerer variant here. So this is going to be mainly focused on spell damage. And I also took the Sorcerer, the Wild variant, just to be able to bend luck. Also, Wild is just a lot of fun. You can get a lot of kooky results. But we're all Bladesing, and I actually think it's important to go ahead and haste. Now, because we're a Warlock, we can twin haste. So we'll just cast it on him and her. Sure, good to go. And additionally, because we're bladesing it, we actually get a lot of armor. So let's go ahead and put mirror image on ourselves, and we're building charges right now. So mirror image on ourselves, and you can see our AC is already up to 28. Again, we don't have any armor on. This is all just through spells at the moment. Now we could summon another Shadow Blade and just waste a spell slot to build up charges, or we could go ahead and just use Quickened and then just use a damage spell like Lightning Bolt. So I think that works out pretty well. Should we upscale it? Yeah, sure, let's upscale it. Zap. A lot of damage there. Now I know a lot of you are thinking, all right, Nomad, this is a lot of prep, a lot of thought, a lot of setup. You know, I could just take a Tempest and a Storm Sorcerer and just wet the targets and then just Lightning Bolt and then make sure I proc Destructive Wrath, and then all of a sudden I'm doing 120 damage. And that's true. But this playstyle is what is the fun part about this subclass. So I understand that it's maybe not doing as much damage or as impressive as something like that, but man, the playstyle for Bladesinging is just, it's so much fun. And we have our Cleric variant here. So this is the playstyle overall that I think is going to be really fun. I'm just going to cast Sanctuary on myself. I'll go ahead and put a Fire Shield on myself as well. Actually, it's a Cold Shield. And then just for fun, I'll throw out, say, like just a Healing Word. Again, I'm just building charges right now, damaging charges. Now, something that's going to synergize with this build really well are the Hellrider gloves that when you heal a target, they get Blade Ward. That would be very strong with this, but this character is completely protected. Sanctuary, nobody's going to bug them. They can just sit here happily and just build up damaging charges while healing the party. And so over here, we have the fighter variant just to show off that Action Surge is just synergizes well. So we can just cast haste on ourselves. Haste is like the go-to concentration I think Bladesinging should be focused on, just because more actions, more charges you can build up. And so those two, they just make sense to me. So casting Mirror Image on ourselves, again, more survivability while bringing up our damage. We can go ahead and Action Surge, and then again, another Fire Shield. And so right now we could climax, but we're only at 3 charges. I'm going to be very interested to see kind of through a whole playthrough, what is the sweet spot when it comes to charges? Like when do you really want to, what number do you want to build both those charges up to, and then climax to get, I would say, consistent results without burning through so many resources? Because I know the main thing everybody's going to want to do with this is just spend as many spell slots as possible and do as much damage as possible. But then after the fight, you're going to be completely drained. And in like Act 1 and Act 2, that's going to kind of suck until you can get like those slumbering potions that basically work as a long rest. So again, it's going to be very interesting to again find out where that like sweet spot is for as far as like when do you want to climax? Well, Mr. Nomad, you want to climax when your partner is satisfied. Jokes are never gonna get old. All right, and we have our Warlock variant now. Now, something with the Sorcerer and the Warlock, because I took them as the second class, our climax is going to be based off our charisma. And since we are a Hexblade, our weapon is also based off our charisma. So this is why I liked Warlock so much, because you can get, you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Your spells also, if you take some damaging spells from Warlock, are going to be based off charisma. Kind of bundle it all under like charisma. But we're going to go ahead and haste. What I like about the Warlock variant is, again, your spell slots. I would just go to level 2 for Warlock to make sure that you could, you get these 2 spells back on short rest, and you're able to cast something like Misty Step and Mirror Image, between short rest at least. So we can go ahead and do that. Again, just building up armor. We're like very tanky. We also have Armor of Agathis here, which again, more armor, more survivability. And Hex also is a pretty good option, but we're focusing on Haste at the moment. They're both concentrations. And so we could actually just cast Hexblade Curse, or we could just teleport away. I think we'll teleport away. Well, the Warlock variant, a little bit more setup, I would say. Or it takes a little bit more to get going as far as the other ones. The other ones kind of came out. The other variants I was doing kind of came out the gate hot. The Warlock a little bit to get going. They had their concentration broken. Well, that sucks. It's like nightmare situation. I just had both my concentrations just break. So really make sure you have gear that focuses on keeping up your concentrations. There's a lot of good stuff out there, but maybe Warcaster, that could be an option too. So we are actually going to start thinning the herd a little bit. I kind of want our Cone of Cold to hit some more, I would say, heavy hitters, but they all have pretty good life because they have Savage Howl on them as a buff. So let's just go ahead and see if we can get Nope, you know what? I'm just going to move away and hopefully they try to hit me and then they will proc some damage on themselves because I have a shield right here, Fire Flame Shield. And we also have Song of Defense when you go deep into Bladesinging. This is useful, I would say. You know, 5 damage when you just use a level 1 spell reaction. So pretty good there. Thank God we succeeded our concentration. So we can go ahead and let's just hit him with a Throne of Cold. Back up a little bit so we don't hit our ally. Just trying to find the sweet spot. Make another joke right there. I'm going to restrain myself a little bit. That looks pretty good. Good. And now we can actually, let's spend one more spell slot. And then let's go ahead and then we will climax on all the ones over there. We can just ensure probably that we kill this wolf here. Or not. So we can just climax and we're going to hit all these targets over here with six charges for damage. Sure, we'll add a little chaos to the mix. So pretty okay amount of damage from our blade charge. A lot of them did. Failed. Something I'd like to see. You can see right there as far as the damage breakdown. 1d6 force repeated 7 times. I want to see that breakdown as far as how did we arrive to 20 there. And I think that would go a long way as far as understanding this class even more, or at least seeing what you can do to manipulate that number to be higher. Everybody has had their concentrations broken. This is almost like a nightmare run. We'll be okay though. They are killing themselves because of our shield. Oh no, we lost one. Are we brave enough to cast haste back on ourselves? We sure are. Is it bravery or is it stupidity? It's a very fine line, just like this lightning bolt. Good stuff. Now we have 5 charges right now, which would be enough to take out him and him maybe. So let's go ahead and do that. And also, ooh, this is a good showcase here. We can get right in the middle of them. We're going to proc an opportunity strike. So as long as that doesn't completely fuck us, this will be pretty good. Okay, 1 dodge. Good. Okay, we are home free. Now this should damage all of them. Beautiful. And pick up our target at the same time because you do get like an initial healing off it. It's just a 1d6, but it's a nice way to pick up a target just like that. And now we can switch to our Cleric variant. And because they've just been sitting in their bubble, the little sanctuary, they're completely fine, and we can just go by and just start healing everybody up again. Let's go ahead and he will just cast haste on himself and just sit in Sanctuary and be completely fine. That was probably the optimal play at the beginning, not to let the Sorcerer do it. But let's go ahead and just heal everybody up while we build up our damaging charges. And so I took Life Cleric also because you do get a little bit of healing added to your heals. So I think that is a nice little addition of why you would maybe want to take Life Cleric if you want to go for this more like frontline supporter. So when you are downed, your charges there, they do stay. So that's something to keep in mind. Now we only have our bonus action, so we actually want to keep this character safe. But we're just gonna teleport away, and boom, we're just keep building up charges. We had another one go down, but guess what? We have our little support battery here. That's just gonna keep just healing everybody up. And I love Healing Word. This is a great bonus action just to pick people up. It's got a nice range on it. And paired with Thief, you can just keep healing people. And again, charges, they're just continually building up, all while we're safe in our little bubble with haste. So really, I'm wondering if like mixing in Sorcerer with this would actually be maybe a better idea, because you could twin haste, have Sanctuary from Cleric, and then just be building up charges. There's a thought right there. And back to our Sorcerer here, we can do something like Meta Magic, which doesn't go off of any of your spell modifiers. And so this is kind of a safe pick if you want to basically just ensure that you kill some targets. Like we're going to take out 2 targets right there. We get our charge. Beautiful. Oh, Magic Surge. Now she's tiny. And so is that. Look at the little werewolf. If you haven't played with Wild Magic before, you really should just make an entire party of everybody who utilizes that Wild Magic mechanic, because it's just a goofy time, and we love goofy times around here. So we have 1 charge, not really worth climaxing. We can just use Booming Blade actually. Beautiful. And now we're building up healing charges. Love it. And Booming Blade's just amazing. Let's get her into the mix. Let's show off her Bladesong charge. Let's charge it up a little bit more. We're gonna need to haste her, give her a little bit more movement so we can use our climax. And so we'll just climax in there because I just want to show off. So we did 29 damage. That's pretty good for how many charges we had. But you can see the saving throw that they had to do based up off of our charisma there. And we could have built it up 1 more, but let's just go ahead and hit it with a Booming Blade. Ooh, a lot of damage from our Booming Blade. Booming Blade's so good. Okay, well, we missed there. Let's see, who has the most charges to finish this guy off? Oh, well, we've got our 12 here. let's go ahead and top that off. So that's all of our spell slots. So we could hit him with, and that's going to kill him. But to build up some healing charges, we could do that. But we're just going to go ahead and climax. 43 damage there. Beautiful. Man, this is just a weird field to look at with all these tiny people and this huge guy from enlarge. That's funny. So yeah, that's the showcase of far as like some multi-class options I've been playing around with. Let me know what you guys think Bladesinger is going to synergize with and some kooky stuff you can come up with, because I was really caught off guard by just taking that one dip into Cleric and all of a sudden having this healing battery. It could be a haste battery if you throw some Sorcerer into the mix, but character that can just sit there and build charges freely. Now you are going to spend a lot of spell slots, so keep that in mind. Again, I want to see where that sweet spot is going to be as far as how many charges of damage do you want to build, or maybe you want to focus more on the martial and then healing side, because healing is going to be much easier to build up. You only have to use your weapon. So a lot to think about with this subclass as far as multiclassing. Heck, even without multiclassing, there's a lot to think about with this class. I love it a lot. So hopefully I've won over some of you wizard mains with this video. If not, I guess I'm just never going to be invited to your clubhouse. Anywho, that's the video. If you guys made it this far, consider hitting that like and subscribe button, and obviously comment on any of the shit that we've talked about here. And I will see you next time. Peace. Take care.